Good evening, and welcome to our second event in the Building Las Vegas Summer Series. I'm Michelle Light, Director of the Special Collections and Archives at the UNLV University Libraries, where we are dedicated to preserving the history of our region for the general public to use and appreciate. As you've just heard, we are in the midst of a 5-year initiative to collect oral histories and historical materials about building Las Vegas. Thanks to startup funding from the Tiberti family, we are preserving these legacies, and we will build a robust online resource to ensure everyone can get access to this material. Tonight, we're very privileged to hear some of these stories firsthand from our distinguished panel of remarkable women. I would like to thank the co-sponsors of tonight's event with the UNLV Libraries. I'd like to thank AIA Las Vegas, the UNLV Downtown Design Center, Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits, and also KUNV and UNLV TV for the sound and recording of tonight's event. But before we start our program, we are privileged to have the Honorable Dina Titus, representative of the great state of Nevada, with us tonight to share some opening remarks. A remarkable woman in her own right, Congresswoman Titus is serving her 4th term in the U.S. House, representing the 1st Congressional District of Nevada. And prior to this national service, she represented District 7 in the Nevada State Senate for 20 years. She's a respected scholar and educator and professor emeritus from UNLV. So please join me in welcoming Congresswoman Titus.
Well, thank you very much. It's always good when you're referred to as the honorable. I always want to be honorable, I'll tell you what. And Michelle, thank you and the great work that you are doing at the library. Being associated with UNLV is always a treat for me. I miss being on the campus. Clay T. White, who is a big part of this whole project, is a longtime friend. Randy Levine from AIA, likewise. And so I just feel like I'm in the company of friends. It's nice to be home and be on the banks of the Colorado instead of the banks of the Potomac, because things are really crazy back there, I can tell you. But you know, you are in the heart of my district, and it's so glad to have you here. Events at 5th Street School are fabulous. Last time I was here, it was to see the Django concert. I don't know if any of you were at that or not, but that was a lot of fun. You know, my district goes from the airport down the fabulous strip through the Arts District to edgy downtown. And my goodness, I came here as a baby when Daddy was stationed at Nellis for my first Christmas. I'm not going to tell you how many years ago that was, but I came back in 1977 to teach in the political science department at UNLV, and think of how this district has changed in that amount of time. And by some scales, that's a short amount of time. I really can't believe it's been 40 years, but many of the things along the strip and downtown are just brand new, or they're reincarnations of things that are old. I say that in Las Vegas, we don't preserve it too often, unfortunately. We just blow the hell up and build something new, but that's okay. That has some merit as well. But you know, a lot of those changes in the building of the Las Vegas Valley over those years were wrought by women, women who had the courage to be change agents, to break glass ceilings, to make a difference. And they turned this kind of dusty trail stop into the entertainment capital of the world, and it is indeed known all over the world. And those changes are not just changes in the skyline, but they're also changes politically, economically, and socially. There are too many names to mention, and they've done a great job of doing oral histories and preserving the stories of so many of these women. But just think about some of the women who were in politics. You had Maud Fraser, Ruby Duncan, Thalia Dondero. They had the guts to stand up and tell the good old boys how things should be done in government. And then you had Judy Bailey in the gaming industry and Claudine Williams. Now, they broke glass ceilings in an industry totally dominated by men. And so it is so great that this program is going on. I'm very supportive of it. I want to be a part of it because it is telling the story of these women. But it's not just those who have their names on buildings. It's other women who are in the trenches here. They may have been housekeepers, or they may have been teachers, or they may have been associated with the dam experience, but they helped build Las Vegas as well. So we want to tell their stories too, because all those stories serve as an inspiration for the new generation of change agents, and they are certainly making a difference as well, and you will hear from some of them here tonight. So thank you all for coming. I know it's going to be educational and entertaining, so I look forward to the evening.
We are so proud to preserve the stories of these women for future generations in the libraries. Right now, I would like to introduce the new dean of the UNLV University Libraries, Maggie Farrell. Maggie just wrapped up her tenure as Dean of the Libraries at Clemson University, and prior to that, she served as Dean of the Libraries at University of Wyoming. She officially begins her new position on Monday, but we are so pleased that after spending all day unpacking, she was able to join us here for this event. Maggie is no stranger to Las Vegas, though. Earlier in her career, she worked at the UNLV Libraries. So we're so excited to welcome her back and excited that she was able to join us here tonight. Please help me welcome Dean Maggie Farrell.
Thank you very much for coming out, and welcome to our special guest and to all of you for coming this evening. It is building on the tradition of the great Library of Alexandria that served as an intellectual center for the city. UNLV libraries serve that same role, that we are not just about access to information, but we're also about creating information and documenting our history and creating new knowledge. So tonight you have shown an interest in how libraries are an intellectual center of our community. So I will add my welcome, and please enjoy this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Farrell. Several staff at the UNLV libraries are also involved in the Building Las Vegas initiative. I'd like to point out Peter Michelle in the back, if you can wave. Peter Michelle is the curator in Special Collections and Archives, and he's responsible for collecting archives. So if you have historical materials that you might like preserved in special collections, please talk to him. Aaron Mays, our visual materials curator, is photographing the region as part of this project, and you enjoyed his pictures on the screen previously and at the back of the room. Stephanie Evans and Clay T. White, our oral historians for the project, have already collected over 120 oral histories for the Building Las Vegas project alone. So they are experts in getting people to talk and share their stories. Clay T. White is the director of our Oral History Research Center, and I'd like to invite her to the stage now. She will be moderating tonight's event. Let's kick off our discussion.
Thank you, Michelle. So tonight, our panel is called A Woman's Place Is. And you can fill that in any way you like, but after this, you'll be able to fill it in a more intellectual way. So I'm going to invite the four panelists to come up and join me. First, Chris G., Clark County Commissioner, District E. Chris, thank you so much. Sharon Wong, Vice President, HGV JHK Investment Group Incorporated, and Chinatown Plaza. Thank you, Sharon. Jennifer Lewis. Jennifer is Vice President of Lewis Group of Companies. Thank you, Jen. Laura Jane Spina, President and CEO of Raffi Architect. So we're going to get started by talking about a woman's place. So I want to know how each of you have been involved in building Las Vegas. I'm going to allow some latitude in the time you take to tell us about this, and we can do this in any order you like. I'd like to have a volunteer to get started and just talking about your role in building Las Vegas.
Jen, do you want to share? All right, I'll go.
Go ahead.
I moved here 39 years ago this month. And I'd come out on vacation with roommates literally a month before that, and went over to UNLV. I decided, I was living in Kansas City, Missouri at that time, and I was teaching. And I said, I want to get my master's. Maybe there's a university here. Went over, met Dr. Wagenseller, got hooked up, got the information for that, went and found an apartment, went down and found a job, and moved out here 3 weeks later. And so 39 years ago, I made my way to Vegas, and I still remember coming in over the hill with my girlfriend, Jolly Trolley. Anybody in here? Dan, you remember Jolly Trolley. Come on. It was on the corner of Sahara and Las Vegas Boulevard. But those were the things that I remember. But there was also, at that time, there were 437,000 people living in Las Vegas. And I don't know why I remember that number, but I started bartending, and so I used to use that as my intro for folks, and I must have found it from someplace. I think as a special ed teacher, I helped grow and change Las Vegas just because of the students that I worked with over the years. But I would also say that this community was good to me, and I always felt you should give something back. And I would say through zoning and planning, you shape it, but I really think it's about the people. So the people that taught me and touched me in a different way, I think helped me be a better person and learn more about what was going on in Las Vegas. It also gave me some sense of strength and community. I'm from Chicago originally, so when I bartended at Jubilation, which doesn't exist any longer, I was the first female bartender they ever hired, and because it was just part of their protocol. But everybody was from Chicago, and I met people I'd never known from back home, but we would have Cubby's Days parties and chili cook-offs and things like that. So to me, that was part of them helping me grow in the community. Maybe that gets us a little started, and then I'll let people go on down the road.
Sharon?
Okay. Well, my experience is a little bit different in a way, but my father built Chinatown Plaza, the shopping center on Spring Mountain, about 23 years ago, 1993. And he built the shopping center because he wanted to cater to the local community and also the tourists, because back then, Las Vegas, I think hospitality is it's still very important, but it was the big thing. And there were so many Chinese or Asian tourists that were coming to Las Vegas from Southern California. That was the big draw. And also locally, I think he noticed the population was growing. So long story short, he wanted to build a center, cater to both, but it was a big gamble because there was nothing on Spring Mountain Road. It was very empty. And he picked the land and, just say we need to give it a shot. So, and then he pulled all the big stores and the 99 Ranch, the market, to Las Vegas. It was a big gamble, but we felt like it might work. And of course, throughout the years, you start noticing a lot of Chinese restaurants building. And I think a lot of you are nodding your heads because I'm pretty sure the whole Spring Mountain Road from pretty much Valley View to Jones Rainbow, it's a different culture. So it's very exciting to see that. And I think without that in particular intention, we built Las Vegas in a different way. I think we provided Vegas a different dynamic. Tourists, when they come, they feel like, oh, there's Chinatown in Las Vegas. And I think that's something they're very excited because in 1999, the governor designated that area as Chinatown District. And it started from Chinatown Plaza because I think we brought in the energy and it just grew very well. So I feel very proud, and of course I took over the position. My dad and I retired, and it's almost a sense of mission to keep doing a better job, to make our center better, because if we do better, everybody else would do better, and more restaurants will come, and tourists will be happy, local residents will be happy. So this is how I feel like we are part of this. That's my story. So,
Thank you. Jennifer?
Thank you.
I was lucky. I'm a third-generation development, and so I came up to help my uncle in 1995, and it was just as the market was taking off. And for us, one of the most important things was when they built Chinatown, because, well, two things. One is we loved eating there, but second, it brought in a lot of development along Spring Mountain, and so I learned about feng shui because we had a lot of Asian buyers. And it was the coolest thing ever until we told the county we didn't want to use 4 in our addresses, and they were a little not gung-ho about that.
I wasn't there yet, I would have helped with that.
We had a few problems with some of the block numbers. So I came up, and my family's always been pretty into working on committees and being involved. And so at some point, I think we built 25,000 units in Southern Nevada. But it was really important to go do stuff. And one of the benefits by being a female, I guess, is that there was some committee, the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee, that home builders had appointed to, and it was some guy, and it conflicted with Monday Night Football. I didn't care about Monday Night Football, so I stole his seat, or he was very happy to give me the seat. But so to me, it's just been about developing. I can answer one mystery. Everyone's wondered. I do name the streets, in case anyone ever is thinking, I wonder how that happens. But so for me, it was you just got involved, you lived here, you needed to do stuff, you show up at meetings, if someone asks you for help, you help. And so it's a pretty boring story, I guess.
No, it's not. Laura Jane?
Like Sharon and Jen, I am part of a second generation here in Nevada, Las Vegas. My mother and father, part of the second generation of the firm. We have an architectural firm, so we were very involved with the library district and worked on most of the libraries here in town, as well as UNLV. We worked on the chemistry building, the engineering building, Boyd Law School, Lead Library, education building. So we were lucky enough. I remember, we don't want to get in trouble for child labor, but I remember growing up and helping mother and dad install the graphics at the education building and the chemistry building when I was probably in 5th grade. So we truly have been part of, seeing the growth and the wonderful things that are happening here.
Wonderful. So this is a world that sometimes we consider really a man's world. But you show us that really does not have to be true. Looking at this city compared to other cities, what is the difference? Are you familiar with women's roles in building, in construction, in other cities? And how does it differ from Las Vegas? Did you guys study the questions?
I guess from my end, our company, we've always had a lot of women involved. My grandmother was one of the principals, so I was used to seeing a female kind of in charge, and she kind of could veto land purchases and design. She got real involved in the design issues. So to me, and then we had a purchasing agent that I love with a big cigarette, and she'd be in there figuring out how much of different things to buy. So that, to me, that was normal. And so in our office, we've always had a culture. We have a female superintendent up in Reno, so that was normal. And in home building here, though, there's definitely a lot more women involved than I think people think. I think there's probably 4 or 5 different companies run by women, like Lion with Mary Connolly, Richmond, Leah Rand. So to me, it was always just a natural. And then working with women in government and then the different groups, to me, that was where you fit in. Like, obviously, Irene was really important. Irene Porter with Home Builders, Carol Villardo. See, everybody's trying to cut Pat Mulroy. Everybody kind of came to the table. So it was just like, that was normal to me. All the planning directors are always female for some reason. So I guess women must like planning school more. So to me, it was just, that's just how you roll, so.
And Mother was always involved with the firm, and so I'm like Jen. I never really saw that there was much of a difference because there were always so many strong women in my life and giving us so much different direction. So I think because of Mother's inspiration and kind of leading that way, that really was, I never even thought twice about it. In fact, I was just telling a story, my friend Kathy Dalby's here in the audience, and I remember I was in high school and I was working with Mother and Dad then too. I've been part of the firm forever. And Katie and I were going around and taking inventory and measuring furniture for the new Nevada Power building back in the day. So she was a mentor to me and a strong female role model as well.
Chris, what about government and planning of a city like this?
It's a good point. If you think about it, we had quite a few women engineers. You mentioned Pat, Virginia Valentine. They started out on the engineering side, that then went into the political side and ran local government, both City of Las Vegas for Virginia and then county. And now she's with the Nevada Resorts Association. So total stair step in a completely different way. Who would think from an engineering background that you would move into that direction? But I think it speaks to Las Vegas or Clark County or however you want to, everybody always knows by Vegas. We're still small enough that the opportunities are still there if you're willing to push for it. I don't find, there's a good old guys club, I mean, believe me, but it's easier to work around or work through here than what I've heard from women when I travel around. And so I think that that's something, maybe it's that pioneer spirit where women were also blazing those trails and going on the trail rides. And so I think we have this sense that it's not so that's your job and you can't get into anything else. So I would applaud Southern Nevada, at least for that part of it, and I suspect it's probably across the state in that feeling of independence that's there. And so the opportunity, if a woman wants it, I think you can actually pave through that way. If somebody mentioned Thalia, she was the first female county commissioner, but you had Lorraine Hunt, too, as well, and, lieutenant governor. In politics, what I found is the door's open if you're willing to work hard. Now, we do work twice as hard, no disrespect, but we do. And it's somewhat of an expectation that's there as you kind of have to go through that. The sad part is that women candidates raise 78 cents on the dollar, exactly what we're not equally paid at 78 cents on the dollar. It's a fascinating little twist there. So there's still areas that we have to work on, not just on equal pay, but really in the campaign and the political role, we get less contributions. And so if they gave Sharon 1,000 and they gave the guy 2,000, I found this when I first ran for office because I went and read their reports. I would call them back and say, I'm sorry, I'm running for the same position. I think you owe me another 1,500. And they generally did. So you also find that if you ask, you get, so in the long run.
So do we think this would change if we had a female governor or something like that? I wish I knew someone who was interested in that kind of thing.
Of course, we can't talk about that tonight, but Sharon, what do you think about the topic that we were just talking about? You are operating a business that is an entire Chinatown. What do you think about women's roles?
I agree with everything they said. And I think Las Vegas really is, I personally feel like, even though I've been here only 20 plus years, I feel like Vegas is pretty open-minded for women. And I never felt anything different. So for Vegas, just like everybody said, I agree, everything, even politics, business, really, it's really really not that hard. I mean, for my position, running a shopping center, I mean, I'm in charge of operations, leasing, everything, and I see it's pretty male dominated, but it's not that difficult. So, I agree with what they said.
Okay, thank you. I want to talk about mentoring for a minute. Usually we use the term mentoring. It does not really apply to men as much as to women. Do you find that it's necessary in this building industry, this man's world, to be mentored or to help mentor other women?
I mean, I think for me, it was a critical path for someone to say, yeah, you can do this. This would be cool. Why wouldn't you want to go be the president of the organization? Why wouldn't you want to go do that? And so I was lucky. People had, I guess, faith, or they wanted to see what would happen. So they pushed me forward with Irene Porter or Carol Villardo and Margie. I mean, so to me, it's important to help out your people. And so I think all of us are here because there are other strong women that we know.
Laura Jean?
I think that women have a different relationship with one another than men do too. I think that women appreciate transparency and honesty, and I think that we tend to communicate really well with one another, and so I think there's a lot of problem solving and things that occur with that when that happens. I look around the room and I have so many friends here and talk about mentorship. My friend Lena Walters, she and I were part of a women's presidents organization, and we met monthly, and they truly helped me get through some difficult times through the recession and things. And I had mentioned Kathy Dalvey before, and my friend Monica Gresser and Mimi Rodden, and they all have played such a valuable and important part of my life. And I imagine all of us here, we're always trying to grow and improve ourselves. And so the more relationships I think I have with women, the better person I become.
Do you mentor others? Yes. Is it necessary today?
Yes. Absolutely, especially with our youth. Clark County School District has a mentorship program, but it is very important to make sure that you help young people know how to connect and navigate. It's a different generation now. They want everything yesterday, and I don't know how to do any of the computer stuff. They come over and show me because I don't know how to do half of it. But what I learned so much from them, because they talk about how on campus this was happening or that was happening, and how did you handle your teacher, let alone another colleague or a peer on campus. So mentoring is very, very important, and I still find for young men and women, but for young women, especially those from a diverse culture, whether it's Hispanic or Asian American or African American or Native American, we need to do a better job of reaching out and nurturing that group, because I think sometimes you have to understand that in cultures, there's very different barriers or expectations. In the Asian culture, very much so, and you can speak to that part, but you find that. So you want to help them make sure that they know to ask, that it's okay to ask, and it's okay to fail. But you got to figure out how you pull yourself back up and move on to the next thing. And part of that is sitting and talking, part of it is modeling each other, but I think you might be able to share some more about that.
Yeah, I think it's important because for my job, I think it's kind of a family business, so it's not, we don't really have any mentoring program like big corporations, but because we give out scholarships, we are very active in the local community. So every year, I see the recipients, and they're about to go to college, and when it's female recipient, they know they want to major in business, and some they want to do commercial real estate, or they want to do everything, but I think they want somebody to tell them they can do it. They get scared, and I think at that age too. So I always say, just call me anytime, email me, and I'll tell you, how this industry is about. How do you go about negotiating a deal? How do you even present yourself? So I think more or less I'm doing that on a regular basis, maybe without knowing it. But I do agree with either there's a formal program or anything or not. It's important to help each other out, especially younger generation. So,
I want to talk about a thriving, successful Southern Nevada. I want to know what that looks like to you, and if we are even close to that vision yet.
Well, it sure is a lot better than it was 5 years ago. Having an architectural firm, it was tough. We went from 38 to 4 in one day. It was devastating, and it really hasn't been until about 6 months ago that things really feel good again. So, yeah, hallelujah. Let's all cheer for that. So I do think things are better, and it's exciting, and we have wonderful planners and commissioners and folks who are help guiding our future, and so I think the future is bright.
So what does it look like? If you had to describe a thriving Henderson, you're downtown Henderson.
Well, I'm a tree hugger, so I believe in bike paths and parks and walking communities and even edible trails and people living in homes that are, maybe 2 or 3 stories and multifamilies living in those homes, and that we're not just bulldozing down our beautiful sites, and that we're using infill and redevelopment for those tools. And so, yeah, that's, but I'm a tree hugger.
I think I'm happy. The economy definitely seems to be sort of stabilized. Although I've always sort of admired the optimism, even in the worst parts of the recession. I remember I went to lunch with some doom and gloom people, and they're talking the world's falling, and it was for a lot of people, but at the same time, we opened up a museum, we opened up a new airport terminal, we opened up a performing arts center in like the worst recession ever, and nobody else does that. I mean, that's a uniquely Southern Nevada thing. But that being said, to me, we need to invest in education more. I think the medical school is pretty awesome. I like, obviously, diversification of the economy. I was a little skeptical, but I think Steve Hill and his team has done a good job of starting to bring some new things, because gaming can't be our only economy here. We need to have more things, because there's enough people with gaming. And so to me, but doing better by our kids, I think, is important. For Henderson, I'd probably like some more authentic restaurants that aren't chain restaurants, if it's all the same. But I honestly, in transportation, even with transportation, though, we complain, and it's cones, and it's this and that, and trust me, I almost hug the guy when they finish Warm Springs, but we do so much better than Southern California. We are so much better. Stuff gets done. You see people working. We gripe, but it's going okay, but we could go even faster, and that'd be even cooler.
I agree. I think Southern Nevada is thriving, and recently too, we've noticed, at least I'm just going to speak on the Spring Mountain Road alone. I'm sure a lot of you noticed there are a lot of restaurants being opened almost every week, and I know everyone is agreeing. It's a good sign. And I think on the bigger scale, if you look at Southern Nevada in almost international level, national level, the best way I would feel how do we get there? I think the best way is, okay, we already have the best hospitality, the Strip. We're famous for that. And I think we need to build more off the Strip a little bit too, because family's important, residents important. If the residents are happy, everybody, is doing well. So like I previously mentioned, the museum and everything, Smith Center, Children's Discovery Museum, everything. It's so amazing to see these things. I mean, we didn't have that 23 years ago, nothing. It was just all casinos. So I think by bringing more of this more family-oriented entities or corporation or anything, it's much better. So people, when they hear about Las Vegas, it's more balanced, it's well-rounded, and it's not just a Strip. And that's what we're trying to do with our little corner on Spring Mountain. We're trying to bring in more variety. So when people come to Las Vegas, they know, oh, there's Chinatown. And I think it represents a more mature city, more sophisticated in a way. And obviously the residents are happy because authentic food, we have that. And we're very close to the Strip and still close to the local, residents too. So we're doing our part to make the contribution. But I think Vegas and Southern Nevada, we're growing. We're definitely growing. And I think we're growing fast. So far, at least in our corner. So, and we hope this is going to be everywhere too.
So tell us what is really happening, Chris.
I hope we don't forget what was happening when we had the huge growth piece coming in, because we grew so fast, we didn't really have the infrastructure in place, the schools, the water, all the pieces that come into play. So I think I'm optimistic, but I want to see light rail on Maryland Parkway. I want to see us looking at multimodal ways of transit. I represent the east side, and it's the best side of town, although I go up to Decatur, but I really go up this whole valley. And I have so many pockets of poverty still that I think people forget about that part. So what I would like to see, I'm working on a Pathway from Poverty program right now, and we're targeting Peterson Elementary or middle school right by the Boulevard Mall in the old Cambridge area. And we're putting in community gardens, school gardens, working with the apartment complexes, because many of them are daily weeklies, on habitability issues. Do you know in our state law, let alone our ordinance, we don't even require air conditioning in Southern Nevada as a habitability issue? So there's some factors that need to be looked at. But those young kids are our future. And if we don't make sure that those schools are performing for them, that they've got a safe way to walk to school or bike to school, that they have food that they can afford. Because we have food deserts all through, and we're actually doing an urban ag program. Rick Passo's here, and we're promoting that. I'm actually requiring gardens in all schools that come before me at the commission, at least, that have to be put in as part of their conditions. And then we're finding funding for them to actually put that into play. So I still think it's all about building a community, and a community that can interlink. I'm so thrilled that Boulevard Mall, Sandstone has done a phenomenal job. If you've not been over there, and that was my mall. I'm so disappointed. My JCPenney's is closing after 39 years. But he has done a phenomenal job. It's more of an entertainment retail mall. He's got 3,000 employees right now. He put 2 call centers in. So now we're going to do a job fair to try to hire the people out of the neighborhood, so that we're trying to stabilize them and bring their income level up, so that we're, again, targeting some of the poverty issues. You will be able to go to a movie theater without having to go to a casino. Nothing against that, but 9 movie theaters will be going inside the Boulevard Mall, so families can go. You've got Sequest. Those are the things that are still missing. You're absolutely right, Jen. I don't do chains if I possibly can. I don't like cookie cutter. We have such a diverse community that food is off the charts, off the street, off on the backside. Once you even get off the strip, we've got some phenomenal places that really should be championed and supported. We have technology issues, though, that we're not interconnected still across the whole state, let alone and even in Southern Nevada. So I think for the economic diversification, we have some opportunities there. There's maybe more horticultural programming that can go in. We have the empty big box stores that are just sitting out there. We should be repurposing those we could even put schools in them. You know, they're just thinking a little bit differently. But what I want to see, because I tell people, don't come to my neighborhood and apply for that. If you don't have a backyard that's more than 15 feet, that's not a backyard, okay? I am tired of those types of cookie cutters. Now, Jen and they don't do that in their design and in their building, so I will give them credit on that side of it. But there are people that came here, architects mostly from Southern California, when we had the greatest transfer from one county to another, from Orange County to Clark County, and they brought that design. This is a desert, folks. You know, your design should be dealing with where your solar piece comes in, where your heat loss is, and the designs for that should be able to keep people's money down, so that in addition to a mortgage, they're able to afford the heating and the air conditioning. So those are the types of sustainable issues that we're trying to promote. The cities have done a much better job just because you're smaller. The county has every regional program, but we have a sustainability office. We're working towards making sure that we're incorporating that kind of design as we're growing again. But we have to still be respectful of how much water do we have, how much do we not have. And those types of widening sidewalks so it's safer for people and it looks better coming down as you meander. Yes, I'm getting to Eastern and Maryland Parkway down, okay, folks, for those of you that live down that. But we have a wonderful, diverse community, and we should applaud that, support it, and try to help them be more expansive, and not just bulldoze. And I no disrespect, what happened downtown, that used to be my assembly district. They got rid of every affordable and low-income housing that was available. That's why our homeless population is 5th highest in the United States. We created problems by letting landlords just bulldoze everything and not have to rebuild something that's still affordable and interconnected to where you work and where you live and where you play. So there's still work to be done, but we've got some dynamic planners and developers and architects like the people sitting up here.
So planners, architects, do you want to talk about how we're going to get there? How are we going to realize this vision?
One step at a time.
Argue that. I mean, I think it's just a piece by piece of kind of figuring out what's missing. I think the commissioner's working on her part of it. But I think, there's some land use patterns that need to change. I think we're seeing like the first apartments down by Chinatown and Asia's. And that's important to get some, I think we have to realize too, not everyone needs to live in the exact same type of house. I think we need to see more attached housing. I think we need to see more efficient uses of land. The schools, I think we kind of all know what needs to happen, and it starts with an M and rhymes with honey, so we know that part. So, but it's something, building the connectivity, getting people back engaged in their community, I think.
So Sharon, what is your vision for Chinatown as it grows? Tell me about residential.
Well, we've noticed a lot of a lot of Asian residents moving from not just neighboring states, from Texas as well, and obviously because of the casino jobs, a lot of them because of that. But I think the fact that Chinatown district exists, they feel comfortable. They feel like they can shop there, they can eat there. So I think we're attracting more and more residents, which is good. We need the growth. And in our area, what we're trying to do is, at least for my part, our shopping center is the oldest, the largest, and it's Asian themed. So because we started, the whole area grows, and it is still growing. So I think it's a little bit unlimited to what we can do. Maybe it'll expand even more, maybe north, south, I'm not sure. It could be. So far, it's growing. So I think the main thing is attracting residents, and the second is tourists. We see cabs all day long. They come from casinos, and they know Chinatown. There's Chinatown in Las Vegas. So we advertise our shopping center, and I think in somehow it just advertised the whole area. So it's a good thing to see. We love to see, international tourists. We see European, we see just from everywhere. So we're very happy to see that. So we're hoping our area can bring both international tourists and the residents, and that's what we like to see.
And Jennifer mentioned infill development, which is absolutely, or maybe it was, one of you did, yeah. And that is something that we have to look at in the land use component. We still get, as commissioners, if an apartment complex comes in, somebody automatically says, oh, it's Section 8, I don't want those people here. And there is still a lot of NIMBYism that we have to deal with in our planning side of it with recommending. I guess folks don't realize there is no such thing as Section 8 any longer. Everybody's on a voucher, and they can move any place across the county that they want to. But there's still this stigmatism that's there and assuming. Now, in some places, I have too many apartments. In my Cambridge area, it's too intense, and there's no single family or even condo or townhouse to view from. So that's a piece that there's no step down, no step up, there's no step out, there's nothing. You're stuck mostly in daily weeklies. And so that's extremely expensive for a family to be able to do. So that's part of what we have to look at as far as how we design.
And to tag on that a little bit, I think that the definition of low-income housing has to be redefined. It doesn't necessarily mean Section 8. It could be college kids. It could be a secretary, a single mother, a teacher. A low-income housing just needs to be redefined, I think, as to what that really entails, and so that doesn't have that stigmatism attached to it. It really should be something that we all try to pull together to help raise up, I think. And I think one of the other things too is, the children of today seem to really care about this earth and our world. And I do believe that the education that they're receiving in that area, and we've all learned so much more about being sustainable and green. And so I do think that there's a positive future as far as our young people and what they'll do for our community.
We've mentioned several female names who were leaders in your particular industry, your segment of this industry. I want you to talk about those standout women just a bit. If there are names that we should know, this audience should know, could you share those with us?
Jane Fielden. That's my mom.
That's your mom.
That's my mom. She's a rock star.
Dad's not bad.
No, that's not too bad either.
So Jen, is there a...
I mean, I have dozens. Probably, to me, some of the most important to me, I think, are probably Irene Porter, who represent the Southern Nevada home builders for, I think, 30 years, and kind of made agreements and tried to figure out how do we work out with the local governments in the state, how do we build a better community, and she worked tirelessly for 30 years at that. She started out as a planner. I think she was probably a critical path. I think on the funding end, obviously, I think I mentioned Carol Villardo from Taxpayers. But you have Pat Mulroy, who's kind of obviously legendary. I think she's doing her panel in a couple weeks. Virginia. A lot of the planners, Margie with the Contractors Board, I don't want to forget, Margie's been running the Contractors Board for, I think, 20 years, and she's not a very tall lady, but she can strike the fear in you if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. But so to me, she's a critical part of it. Again, all the planners, Lucy Stewart, there's a stack of Mary Kay Peck. Oh, for sure, Terry Murphy is another one who's like a little short, like on fire, knows everything, will outwork anybody in the room.
Stephanie Garcia Voss, City of
Stephanie.
Henderson. She's rock star. She's new ULI, understand, chapter director.
Councilman,
Deborah
Mayor
March. Deborah March.
I saw her this morning, but I think for some reason, women like planning school.
You guys are very lucky. There are a lot of females in your industry. My mother, I have to say, my mother. But for my job, I've encountered so many different people from different industries. So I don't really have particular two or any. Just whoever I encounter, I just look up to them. Congresswoman Dina Titus, she's one of them. She comes to our event. We have Chinese New Year celebration. Every year she comes. And you see hardworking women in action. You admire that. And Chris, too. You're the one that approve, disapprove, everything. And I always feel like, wow, that's amazing. And how did she get there? And it's just every day there's so many in Southern Nevada. So we're very lucky. And I'm very lucky to learn from everyone.
So I guess I'll pick the politics. I would say these ladies up here, for sure. You mentioned Dina, who I've known for 35 years. And, sometimes when you're passionate as a woman, they try to frame you into something and they use more adjectives than they really should. And so when you're passionate, they used to tell me that I was too aggressive. No, I'm assertive. There's a twist that comes into play that validates you in the long run. But I have to say, I was mentored by Eileen Brookman, former Assemblywoman, another itty bitty. We think tall, those of us that are short. But I would say Eileen Brookman, Thalia Dondero was just a gem. Smart, hardworking, dedicated, but just well-rounded, always very classy and very just strong. You mentioned Virginia already. I would say Marilyn Kirkpatrick, that's on the board with me now, for Barbara Buckley. Just phenomenal, smart, hard-working women, but we always try to give it back. It's no longer like herding cats in the women's groups. We're much more supportive than we used to be back in the day, I think, and that would be a change that I think I've seen. Vegas has been, I mean, we have some, Sue Wagner from up north, if anybody knows Sue, she was a phenomenal state senator. There are just passionate people, though, that get up and go to work every single day, that make sure that they bring their families, home, their kids are there. I think they're part of our role models as well. They may be behind the scenes, but they make everything else work for us in the long run. Even though we're the face out front, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be where we are today, because they pave. We're standing on the shoulders of somebody else in the long run, and I'm much appreciative of it. It doesn't mean we didn't work hard to get here, but the staying power is there, and Vegas has been good to people.
I think it's also important to mention that one of the partners here today, the AIA office, is all run by women. We have Karen Richardson and Kelly and Randy Levine, and the architectural world to have be run by women is pretty cool.
So, when I start an interview, this is not that, but when I start an interview, we learn a little about your background. So I'd just like to take a few minutes for each of you just to talk about how you got where you are, what happened that allowed your career to unfold successfully like it has.
Well, growing up as in an architectural interior design family, we had what Mother used to call our steak years and our tuna casserole years. And that's just how, construction is. And I never really thought I'd get into the business, so I tried broadcasting, journalism, PR, social work, and then by chance I had to take a course for college, and I ended up taking a drafting course, and I was pretty darn good at it, and I really liked it. And so it just kind of started to snowball, and Mother and Daddy kept saying, you do not want to get into this business. It is the toughest business you could get into. Don't do it to yourself. And my brother was smart enough, he became a physician. So anyway, so that's, one thing led into the other, and then I just started saying, I'm coming in, Mom and Dad, watch out. And so I'm lucky enough to still be working with them now.
I think for me it was somewhat of a foregone conclusion. My preschool trips were to job sites. When we go on field trips, most of my jewelry was made out of the wire you would get from the little pieces from electrical projects have been cut off, cables. And so to me it was always, we were always in the office, we were always harassing my grandmother, we were always filing stuff for someone or driving stuff around. So I think for me, I was a decent student, but I went to planning school at USC, and I remember my first planning class, I'm like, oh, this all makes sense. This isn't philosophy or something convoluted. This is about balloon framing houses. These are my people. And I remember thinking I'd found them, and then we got to play SimCity, and that kind of encouraged it. But I think for me, it was always about my family and coming to work for my uncle up here. And then it was sort of just growing into like, oh, I like planning. The guy who has that seat over there doesn't like going to these meetings because it conflicts with football or whatever. I'm going to own that. And then when you start volunteering, you probably have found this out also, is when you start volunteering for stuff and actually show up and report back what you learned, people either, I don't know if you take advantage of it or you get to go to the next committee. And so you just kind of grow and meet interesting. And then you gradually meet a network of people. You get your people, I guess. And to me, that's been important, like being on library board, they're really interesting people on that. And so I've learned a lot about accounting and different things from other people. And so it just kind of increases your network. But for me, it's just been kind of growing and, well, this seems kind of cool. Someone offer, do you want to go do this? Why not? What's the worst that could happen?
Great. So Sharon, how did you get involved?
I think a little similar story. I didn't start out in this industry. I was in financial advisory industry, stock brokerage. And, my personality, I've always been very outgoing, outspoken. And so when my dad was building Chinatown Plaza, it was just something very exciting. You know, I was not connected so much. I was much, much younger. And then just, I felt excited. And then I would see him go to the job site, and he actually climbed up to the roof. Everybody freaked out. He was checking all the tiles. They were imported from Taiwan, porcelain, beautiful. And I remember seeing him up there, everybody else on the ground, the general contractor, everybody, like, oh my God, do we have insurance, you know? And I'm like, yeah, it's my dad, you know, what's wrong with that? And he just, you know, I saw that, but it was not my industry. I went on to work for a major stock brokerage firm, and a few years ago, my dad wanted to retire, at least semi-retire. And then I have two brothers. So he was just kind of wondering, you know, who wants to do this job? And we're all kind of, oh, sure, you know, it's exciting. It's very exciting. And he said, well, the loud one, me. So what do you think? You know, I said, oh, it's exciting. I like it, you know. And my job was going great, but it was very flexible. And I did it for a long time already. So I feel like, oh, yeah, this might be a good change. And it's family business, you know. Dad would feel more comfortable to have the kids run the property. So it's kind of funny, and I think my personality fit this industry, at least according to him so far. He approves that I'm doing okay. So yeah, so it's interesting. My background was not in this, so I had to learn from the beginning. You know, I mean, to have that memory of the job site, and then be kind of out of it, but then saw the growth of the whole Spring Mountain Row, and obviously the center was doing great. And then now I'm in full, you know, action, and to have to really make decisions and do it, it's a journey, but it's very exciting. You know, I always remember the stories he told me, and now I can apply. I know what happened, so I love this. But yeah, it's kind of funny that I didn't start out in this industry.
So Chris, we have 30 seconds.
Okay. And I'm a politician. Okay. I'm the oldest of six. I was always taught, work at whatever job you do it well. And I did. I was a maid, a cook, a bartender, a cocktail waitress. I did everything. I never planned on going to college. But when I got out here, I wound up moving from Chicago to Kansas City, Missouri. My parents said, there's a school down the street. Go see if you can get in. And that's really how I wound up doing it, so I could meet people. And I started working in special education, and it became my career. And I think that's what's made me a good politician, is I'm an advocate. I just happen to be an advocate for a broader group of people now. And I see opportunity in everybody. And I hope that's what makes me a better person and a representative, because I try to be open. You can yell at me if you voted for me or voted not for me, but you have every right, if you're in my district, to tell me what you believe or think or do. And so I've always tried to approach it that way. And I've had great mentors as well. But hard work makes a difference in politics as well as it does in the walk of life. So I've been privileged in that. It doesn't scare me at all. I kind of like it.
Wonderful. I'd love to have a round of applause before I open the floor. Thank you so very much. This was amazing. So we're going to open the floor now for questions. So if you have a question, here's a microphone right here in the middle of the room at the front. And I'd love for you to come up and ask the question that you've been dying to ask.
So thank all of you for being here. It's always wonderful to be in the presence of such accomplished women. My question is, as you've watched Las Vegas grow, and you've also watched UNLV grow, can you talk a little bit about what UNLV is bringing to the city now and the differences that it's making as far as rounding us out from just a gaming town? Thank you.
I'll start. In 1990, when I first ran for the assembly, my first bill in 91 was to move the School of Medicine south. And after 10 years of taking knives out of my back, I thought, oh man, this is never going to happen. It is a game changer, because we are still underserved with physicians in Southern Nevada. It will be a way to actually do medical tourism, it creates well-paying jobs. We have to stop just paying low-wage jobs. We really do have to look at that part. To me, that's UNLV is just, it's off the charts as far as being a community asset. And I think that's huge. With the apartments that are going up for the students over on Cottage Avenue, I used to live right up the street from there. So it is the future. We should have been here faster, but that's okay. We'll take it when we can get it. UNLV is a gem. I mean, you think about it, just from the arts and the cultural, the gaming, the hospitality branch. Now this rounds it out, I think, in the long run.
I was just talking to someone just yesterday morning at breakfast, and I didn't realize it until we had this conversation, but our entire staff are UNLV graduates.
Wow. Excellent, excellent. So Jen, you serve on campus, and Sharon, you are an alumni of campus, so could you just add some thoughts?
Oh, you know I have to, because I feel like if the university district is sort of the center, I serve on the library board, so that's to me the brains of the whole thing, which we have a lot of librarian people, so we've got to go with that. So to me, being a part of it, it's just amazing. I'll pitch the library because that's where I spend my time, but it's this amazing resource that has, it has education curriculum. It has a program helping first-generation students through to graduate. It has just amazing resources. The community can come in and use it. To me, it's the most important part of the library, I think, or of the campus. And we're lucky we all have it. It's our history center. We have our media. It's the critical path. And so I think expanding it and kind of can continue its outreach with the medical school library component, to me, that's the heart of it, or the brains of it. We'll go with brains. That sounds better.
Good. Sharon?
They said everything I wanted to say. Yeah, I agree. And I think, being graduated from UNLV with a finance degree, it's amazing to see school grow. So grow so fast too, starting from years ago, the law school and the medical. So I concur everything, and I'm very proud of it.
Great.
Hi, Jan. I know that you named the street, and I have not seen any street named Mia. So if you ever name the next street, Mia Court will be a good name.
I will be happy to try to see if it's a street that's approvable, we will work on it.
Hello, thank you for coming tonight. If you could start up a nonprofit business to benefit a particular group of local women, what group would that be to have maximum impact on that particular group and then our community at large?
I'm trying to target into poverty areas, so I would probably I found out that at the Cambridge area, I have more single women with babies under 5 that have AA degrees or BA degrees that are making less than $10,000 a year. I'd want to work on that. There's something wrong. And here's what I just found out, because I redrove the area and I went, I've lived over here forever. What are we missing to support these people being able to go to school or to work? There's not a single child care facility in that entire corridor, not one. And so I'm working with the mall to see if we can try to bring one in. That'll benefit the workers as well as the young women. But we really need to reach out to folks and target better. What's your skill set? What's missing? How do we prep things so that maybe you get your OSHA 10 just in case you ever need it. Maybe you get your health card just in case you ever need it. So you've got things in your pocket if something destabilizes in your family through a loss of job or whatever, that you're ready to go at least to work in some way, shape, or form. So I would want to find out what's keeping them down, what other elements are there that are affecting them. And I think that that's a first start with the child care component. And that's where train them into child care, help them get their state licensing, and then maybe they run their own in the own neighborhood. I mean, there's just different ways to look at it.
Sure. How about investors? Are there investors who...
There are people that they talk about it, but to find that is very, very difficult. So I have to say Mr. Sansone's been very supportive, and since he brought in 2 call centers and he's going to hire, that one company is going to hire close to another 500 people, that's why he's going to let me do a job fair where we can reach out into the community. But if he can put a child care center in, then I don't need to do it, but then I need to find out what other supports are there, because we have to make sure that the families that need it best can afford it still in the long run. And I don't have children, but for those of you that do, I'm told it's $15,000 to $20,000 a year that's out of pocket for child care, which is just absolutely insane. So, yeah, investors, that's not sexy. So, so sometimes you have to find that thread with somebody.
I am a mother, and I was lucky enough to have a very supportive husband. I can't imagine how difficult it must be to be a single mother, so I was kind of trailing along the same line as that. I think that is definitely a group of people that could use a helping hand.
I would probably, if nonprofit organization, I will probably target college, college girls that are about to graduate. I want to teach them how to. First of all, I want to keep them in Nevada, in Southern Nevada, so they can find jobs here. They want to stay here because they're very talented. And I think it's just more of an organization that would teach them how to go after their dreams, how to speak in meetings, and how to not be afraid and don't get intimidated by a room full of men. I came from that background, and I think my personality, has it helped me, but not everybody's the same. There's some girls that are very shy, but they have ambitions. So I would like to teach them how to be more assertive, more confident, and help them find jobs here so they all stay here instead of going out of state.
I think there's so many needs, but one of the things we've been working on a little bit through Home Builders that kind of builds on part of what Chris mentioned was trying to get into the high schools. Not every kid who's in high school is college bound, although I know I'm supposed to be repping UNLV here. There are people who are better with their hands. There are people who want to be outside. There are people, but trying to integrate more kind of trade education in the schools, getting your OSHA card, getting your health card, because those are jobs that are important. There's a lot of construction jobs that we can't fill anymore because people want to go do something else. A lot of construction people moved out of town, but there's a lot of, maybe not everyone dreams maybe of being up on the roof, but somebody has to be the guy up on the roof. It's a good job. But it doesn't even occur to people anymore. But if you could kind of get people that like to be outside, work with their hands, but getting the OSHA cards, getting them on the right track, getting them used to using tools so that they're valuable the day they step out of school, to me would be completely invaluable.
So our last question.
I thank every one of you for being here. I had one question, and I'd like to hear from each and every one of you what you guys think, what you women think, are some of the most contributing factors towards the inequality that you mentioned between, for instance, the income inequality, and how can we as men help overcome that hurdle?
I think a lot of it's generational. I really do. I think a lot of it's generational. I think it's already happening. I think, your generation and younger are seeing that, but I think it was difficult for maybe the traditionalists before the baby boomers. I just think a lot of it was cultural, and it's been, difficult to try to break down those barriers because it's just something that's always been the way it was.
And I think that if you own a company, you pay the women same thing that you pay the men.
Or more.
Or more.
Or more.
And in fact, here's an interesting thing. I just found out in the marijuana industry, I was meeting with some folks, and there was disparate pay between the men and the women. So I called them back in. I said, you want your license gone? Good. You better clean this act up real fast. So.
Any other comments on that one?
To me, it's listening, too. Yeah. I mean, we could probably all sit here and come up with all the funniest, weirdest incidents, but a lot of it, like I remember when I finally heard the word mansplaining, and I'm like, this is the word I've been looking for like a dozen years. I've been on boards and committees where I was appointed and someone, we're going around the room to introduce ourselves, and someone, like an older gentleman, introduced me and starts telling me my background. I'm like, that's not even accurate, if nothing else. Like, can we at least, if you're gonna completely talk over me, like, at least get it right, But it's definitely, it's listening, it's thinking about it from a different perspective, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think generational too. That's that. But for men, how to help women and how women do better. I think men, if you can think the person you're working with or the person that's across from you in the negotiation room, that's your sister, that's your mother, how would you like to talk to them? I think, and I actually personally feel like this is getting much better than before. Me being, many times I'm the only woman in a room full of men, and I am a little bit gender oblivious because I grew up with boys. I have two brothers, and my cousin, all boys, so I tend to speak louder, volume-wise louder, and confident. So if both parts are paying attention, women being more confident and more decisive, and men being a little bit more, I don't want to say sensitive, but just a little bit more respect in a way that listen to what women have to say, I think it will only get better. And I really feel like this is getting much better than before. So people are paying attention to this, not just, like you said, the income and everything. Sometimes it's the attitude. And I'm very confident we're heading that way. And by doing this event, it helps too. So
I heard someone speak the other day, and they said, let's get away from categorizing people. Why aren't we're not male, we're not female, we're not Asian, we're not Indian, we're not white, we're not black. We're all Americans. And let's just treat each other as equals.
Words do matter. Words absolutely do matter, and if you don't, I would say to encourage male counterparts that I work with, don't get defensive. Try to appreciate that a different point of view that comes into play and feel supportive of it that way rather than defensive about it, because you do still have that kind of pushback. But thank you for not calling me a guy. I know it's a pet peeve of mine. I don't know how I'm ever going to crack that one down. But yes. Even as a teacher, it was ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, depending on their age level, because that's more inclusive. And I'm not a guy. With no disrespect to the men here, we love you, we need you in our, but there's terminologies that come in that tend to define people. So I think we have to be more sensitive about that no matter what when we're talking.
We do.
And I think Dina Titos would agree. Y'all works good.
That's true. So please, let's
you.
give our panel one more wonderful round of applause. Thank you so very much. So if you would start leaving the stage. So before you leave, we're not done. We're not done. We're not done. Yes. So I would like to ask Kelly McCarthy to come to the stage, and she's going to close this out. This is our new development person for the libraries at UNLV. Kelly?
Okay. I'd like to give another round of applause for our panelists tonight. So inspiring. So inspiring. I'm Kelly McCarthy. I'm the Director of Development for the UNLV University Libraries. I just took this job 2.5 months ago, so I'm still getting used to my title. When I tell people I'm a development director, most people have no idea what that means, so I usually say, I'm a fundraiser. I ask for money, and then they usually say, good luck with that, God bless you, and make the sign of the cross. But while my title is development director, and I sometimes describe myself as a fundraiser, I really should say, and I like to think of myself as a philanthropic dream come true maker, because that's what I do every single day. I help people support what they already love during their lifetime, and then I show them how easy and wonderful it is to leave a legacy for what they love and to honor their life's work after they're gone. I work with a new woman at UNLV, actually. She's here with us tonight. She's a lot like the woman that we heard from tonight. She's smart, feisty. She's a person who gets things done. She invited us all to a meeting the other day called Teamwork Makes the Dream Work. And when I first heard that, I thought, oh, that's funny, that all rhymes. I never thought of that before. But as I was listening to our panelists tonight and thinking about the UNLV University Library's Building Las Vegas project, I thought, and how true. It takes a team to build a building, right? You need a visionary who conceives of the need for the building. You need the funding and the people to inspire the public support. You need someone with the space or the land, and then you need to get the permit, which Tom Schuman, who's here with us tonight, formerly of JMA, who's built great projects like our Veterans Administration Las Vegas Medical Center, Las Vegas City Hall, and World Market Center, and who has actually been an incredibly generous supporter of so much at UNLV, told me the other day that it takes a lot longer than you think to get that permit. You need architects like Clyde Jubal-Wald, and John Cly is with us tonight. His firm's responsible for Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino, and more recently, The Link and all the awesome retail dining and entertainment venues there, and the modernization of UNLV's Thomas and Mack. John and his husband, John Sparrow, formerly of YWS Design and Architecture, and who's worked on everything from the Bellagio to the Center and Congregation near to Meade. They are here. They've both been tremendous supporters of UNLV and architects. You need the designers, you need the construction workers, and then you need the people who use the buildings, who breathe into them and give them life. So it really takes teamwork to make the dream work. And tonight, I see all of us in this auditorium as a team. And the dream is the successful completion of our Building Las Vegas project. Each year, it takes about $150,000 to support this project. We are forever grateful to the Taberti family who launched the first year of the project this past year, and to Ronaldo Taberti, who has begun working with us to document and preserve his family's business archives. He even has receipts for packages of nails, like nails. But that's the attention to fine detail the people and the businesses who are contributing to Building Las Vegas project have. I'm not asking anyone tonight to make a $150,000 gift. I mean, unless you'd like to, and then please see me as soon as I leave the stage. But if you care about the community and the life that we've built here, and you want to make sure that we can preserve it so that students can study it, so that faculty can teach it, and so that professionals and family members can enjoy it forever, I'm asking you to support what you care about. Because I come from a public television background, I like to make donating fun, or incentivize it, as we like to call it. So if you're able to make a donation of $250 tonight, the library's ordered these nice mugs. They have our Building Las Vegas logo on them, and you can see them yourself in the back. We also have, I really like these, zip drives. It like splits in half and there's your zip drive, and it has preloaded each of them with 10 images from the Building Las Vegas project, so you can see some of what we have so far, and they're beautiful. And a gift of $500, we will give you both. But I also like to make donating easy, so we have here two of my colleagues, Sue Kim and Tammy, who will be handing out the envelopes. And maybe they already have. I'm getting signals. They have. Okay. So everybody should have an envelope. It's self-sealed, so you can mail that in. You can give it to one of our staff here before you leave, or you can go online. And we actually have one of our library advisory board members, in addition to Jen Lewis, Betty Lacombe in the back. Betty's a former New Yorker, and she was with IBM for 35 years, so she knows what she's doing, and don't mess with her. In closing, I can't help think of an Amelia Earhart quote that I saw recently, and then I decided to put it up in my office on a big piece of art because I loved it so much. Amelia said, "The most effective way to do it is to do it." And I know the people who built Las Vegas know that's how you get things done. So tonight, I say do it. Donate, support what you love, and help the UNLV University Libraries preserve our great city. I want to thank you to our sponsors, AIA Las Vegas, UNLV Downtown Design Center, and Southern Glazers Spirits and Wine, Congresswoman Dina Titus,
all of our panelists, the UNLV University Library staff, our board members, so many UNLV faculty and staff who are here tonight, our donors, and to all of you for coming and showing your support. Please don't miss our very last, but not least, Building Las Vegas Summer Speaker Series event. It's Thursday, September 7th, featuring Jay Bingham, Robert E. Lewis, that's Jen's uncle, Pat Mulroy, and Virginia Valentine. It's called Turning the Tide, Water in the Desert. It'll be right here at the school, same time, same place. We hope to see you there, and thank you again for coming.